So if we kind of look at what's gone on in the last week, so we basically saw realized vol tick a little bit higher. So if I switch the dates on here, oops, switching the dates on here, you can see on Bitcoin, you got the orange line. We got down to like a 32 Parkinson realized vol, and that's on a 7-day, and then that's been grinding its way up to kind of mid 40s again, and then the implied vol was like 45. It's kind of drifted a little bit, basically, right? So you can see that the spread between implied and realized has kind of been coming in, and that's what we call the carry. So you can see here where the carry was kind of variance risk premium or carry was around 15 vols, kind of came down to around 0, popped to around 6 again, and then now it's back to negative. So we actually got realized very slightly above implied vol right now. And that's not really a condition that we see very often. It's just showing that the market has been quite choppy, yet the implied vols in the front end are not priced for it to stay that choppy, basically. So the premium on implied vols is not in the super front end weeklies, right? Similar story on Ethereum, where we've eroded that variance risk premium to negative. It's actually quite negative. It's about 7 vol negative right now. So the realized vols at 58, the implied vols at 50. So that's kind of what we're seeing in realized vol there. Another way of looking at realized vol is this chart I've got here. Sorry, this one. This kind of shows us, the implied range. If I zoom in a little bit on here into, say, this section, kind of shows it a bit better. So the candle basically shows us kind of, highs, lows, open, close. And then the dotted lines kind of show us whether or not the candle has breached the implied move. And you can clearly see that sort of last week, we had one day where it kind of tagged the top of there. But other than that, most days have been pretty contained, right? So even though, realized vol has been trickling higher, you can see we're not breaching the implied move significantly, right? We're not having that big intraday swings that are like testing the highs and lows of that range, basically, right? So that's kind of what that's showing us there. If we then look at term structure, so I can go to here, switch off some of this stuff so it's a bit clearer. So on the week, generally seeing vol shifting down. So you can see a week ago, we had that big kink, obviously, for the election at 57 vol. That's come down by about 4 vol points there. And then generally, if we look at kind of how much the curve has come down, front end is down about 3 or 4. Back end in Bitcoin is down about 2. So, a reasonable shift down in vol across the whole curve. If we look at Ethereum, seeing a bit more of a vol decrease in the front end. So you can see here, a bigger drop there. So as much as kind of 5 or 6 vols there in the short dated expiries. Obviously still got the kink for the election. And then that back end similar, down about 2.5, similar to Bitcoin. So then if we look at kind of the relative value side of things on the week, then we can just look at this chart here. It kind of shows us that you've got a week ago, you had the front end trading about nearly 10 vols over. It's dropped to about 7. On the 25th of October, we're sitting at around 8 vols. December, we've got down to about 6, and then the back end upticks again to around kind of 7, 8 vols again. Okay, so a slight shift down again. Ethereum vol essentially getting hit harder than Bitcoin vol this week, basically, right? So that's kind of what we are seeing there. Moving on to kind of skew, I like using these charts now as a way of summarizing what's going on in skew. I mean, we can look at how the time series kind of played out as well over the week, but this kind of in a nutshell shows us week on week kind of what the different parts of the curve did in terms of skew. So I call that the skew term structure. So you can see Bitcoin, you had about a 1 vol call skew at the front, went to about 3 or 4 vols at the back. That 3 or 4 vols at the back is holding, but the front end is coming down. So, to the election bucket, we've got a 0 skew, and we've got a put skew of like 1 vol in the absolute front end there. So definitely a slight bid for puts coming back in the front end, but not so much the back. Here you can see a shift down, Ethereum skew moving down towards puts across the whole curve. But again, the long end sitting in a call premium of about 5, but the front end sitting in a put premium of about 4 vols there, right? 4 or 5 vols. So clearly Ethereum seeing more reason for downside here, thinking that Ethereum is going to be less well supported in a down move. So people wanting to own that downside tail in Ethereum more than they're willing to do that on Bitcoin, basically. Okay, so that is what we're seeing in skew. If we look at the terms, if we look at the kind of time series chart here for both vol and skew, you can see the way it evolved throughout the week. So, you know, steady decrease in vol in the long end, front end a bit more kind of volatile. So, you know, front end vol getting hit into sort of, that was last week, that was week before last, but then into the weekend again, we often see a big hit into the Saturday, and then we kind of usually bounce out of there. But right now, the front end kind of sitting near those lows that it made into the weekend. In terms of skew, you can see how the skew developed. We did get a bit more of a put skew middle of last week. Obviously, when we were down testing that 60K region, has bounced since then, but not managed to get back into call premium. Ethereum skew, similar story. That front end skew, 1 week stuff got to -4 or 5, had a little bounce. It's kind of still sitting around sort of 3-ish there. So that's kind of the time series and how the vols have kind of evolved. Vol and skew has evolved over the course of the week.
Hi everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up for a free 1-month trial at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.